Frieren, Beyond Journey's End is the story of Frieren, an elf mage who at the start of the series has just concluded her decades-long adventure with her fellow companions to slay the Demon King and bring peace to the land. While her two human companions have devoted a large chunk of their lives to this quest, elf Frieren is long-lived, so she perceives this experience as much more fleeting. Nevertheless, she starts to feel regret for not connecting with the people she spent so much time with, especially after the death of the heroic hero Himmel. Decades after his death, Frieren takes on a talented apprentice and heads off on a new quest to travel north to the resting place of souls, to truly bid farewell to Himmel in a way she was unable to when he was alive. The anime has a beautiful but melancholy tone on par with Mushishi and The Last Unicorn, and is impeccably voice acted. Despite being told that anime is not kid stuff, a lot of anime is indeed aimed at a younger audience, with themes of sudden and often unwanted changes that happen to one's body, or the pressure to be integrated into roles in society they might not have the mental capacity to be ready for. It's often why I take a huge delight in coming back to anime I enjoyed as a teenager that was clearly aimed at an older audience. When I was getting into anime, such as Cowboy Bebop and Monster in my teens, I hadn't had a lot of experiences. I hadn't fucked up, gotten blackout drunk, had terrible fallouts, burned bridges, had people I loved more than anything say they never wanted to see me again. I hadn't lost a job because of complex and cutthroat politics I wasn't cunning enough to understand. These anime are clearly enjoyable, regardless of one's lived experiences, but watching Cowboy Bebop as an adult and watching the characters futilely try to outrun their pasts, deal with medical debt, and desperately try to get by resonates a lot harder. When I read Monster at 19, I said, wow, this is really good. When I rewatched the anime at 38 after being fired from my job as a zookeeper, I said, he just like me. Frieren is the first anime I've watched in a while at an age where insurance will cover my colonoscopy and I'm due for a mammogram, where I've felt it was aimed at an older audience. Not in terms of violence or sex, but the idea of reflecting upon a life you've lived and the experiences you've had, the legacy you choose to leave behind, along with the regret one might find themselves having as they become older. Frieren as an elf is incredibly long-lived, and a key narrative in the story is that elves do not perceive time the way we do. Both Frieren's hesitation to take on an apprentice because she knows she'll outlive her, and Kraft's decision to become religious because he needs to believe that there will be a record of his actions amongst a higher power are bittersweet, and some of my favorite aspects of the show. I think watching at a younger age can still be enjoyable. Its subversion of, okay, what happens after the adventure party defeats the ultimate evil and bring peace to the land is a novel concept, but similar to Cowboy Bebop, I think having lived a full life can make this anime resonate a lot more. Frieren herself resonated strongly with me, both with her desire to connect and truly understand people being depressingly close to my own experiences as someone on the autism spectrum, and also my own experiences as I got older. My beloved dog is now 15, both my parents are gone, the few friendships I've been able to keep are also getting older now, with jobs, spouses, families, lives of their own. I also fear as I get older, I won't leave behind any true legacy. For a show about a cute elf girl, this anime is very good at making you painfully aware of your own mortality. While I've gotten back into competing with my cosplays, I'm also on the lookout for cosplays I can make that are a little more simple and can work well at multiple cons. So with Momocon coming up, I decided to make everyone's favorite elf of a midlife crisis, Frieren. I started with a basic commercial pattern dress that could be easily modified. As you can see, the pattern isn't 100% accurate to Frieren's dress, so I started doing mock-ups to see if the modifications would work, much to the horror of my husband, because did I mention I started to do this costume the night before we left Katsucon? In my defense, I was not con crunching. I was very sure I would be debuting Frieren at Momocon, but ever since I got fired from my job as a zookeeper, I've kind of thrown all my time and energy into cosplaying, and I just get antsy if I don't have a cosplay to work on. Frieren's dress has princess seams, which the commercial pattern did not, so one Sharpie later we had made some princess seams. The next step was taking the mock-up, transferring it to paper, then cutting it out for real onto the fabric I'd gotten. For the cloak, I had another commercial pattern that I like to do for any cloak I make. I just made this one far shorter. Once again, always good to make a mock-up first to make sure the length and fit work well. Mock-ups can seem really time-consuming, but so is having to redo your entire costume and wasting expensive fabric. Little fun fact about me, despite sewing for 20 years, I still perceive myself as a sloppy cosplayer, which is why one of the best investments I can recommend if you're seriously getting into cosplay as a hobby is a serger. It will take your C+ costumes to at least a B-, and it's very cathartic to spend 2 hours just taking every piece of fabric you've ever cut and running it through a serger to prevent fraying and ugly hems. For the stripes on Frieren's dress, I wanted to do the exact amount she canonically has, so I just went with making my own stripes. Shout out to Sarah Spaceman, who had the sage advice of sewing the stripes together first before you cut out the pattern. The stripes came out really good, and besides adjusting the length, the dress was coming out good. So it was on to the next steps of this costume, that, much like Frieren, hide this mana. So you're like, whoa, ho, ho, I'm an evil demon. This costume will surely be easy and simple. And then it's like, oh no, it's actually a lot harder than I was led to believe.
Ara, kill yourself.
I'd bought some beautiful gold fabric at Fine Fabrics a little bit outside the perimeter in Atlanta, and I entered bias tape hell, where I had to cut and make all the bias tape and then sew the bias tape together and then sew all the sides of the bias tape to the dress and cloak. It was now the end of February, and I had to put the construction of Frieren on pause because I was getting a colonoscopy, which is a weird thing to mention in a video about an autistic-coded elf, but I like to think of this video as a reflection on what it means to get older. I also wanted to bring this up because colon cancer is one of the few preventable cancers. The reason I was getting screened relatively early is because my mother was diagnosed of stage 4 colon cancer when she was 58. Until recently, the recommended screening age was 50, and precancerous polyps grow pretty slowly. So if she had gotten her colonoscopy at that age, she might have avoided cancer altogether. She survived, but it was a traumatic ordeal, and a lot of people sadly do not. I am honestly shocked I've made it to 40. So much of my life was just me in survival mode of my vices of alcohol and Trigun Yaoi to keep me going. It's wild to find myself in a house with healthy relationships and a lot of DBT skills and a mindset I would describe as positive and pragmatic. And while I'm happy I'm in a place where I want to be alive and enjoy my life, it also means I gotta go do butt stuff for health-related purposes. I was incredibly anxious, but honestly, it was all pretty easy. They gave me this comedically large jug of prep to drink, and I'll just say this. My friend Shannon once made me try those spiked Dunkin' Donut drinks, and this was far easier to finish. If you're 45, have a family history, or any odd issues with your bowel movements, please get a colonoscopy. They give you a lot of drugs, so it knocks your ass out. If you're like me and you wake up in the middle of it, you're on a lot of drugs, so it doesn't hurt either. Then a nice nurse lets you fart a bunch, and you get to go home and get Dunkin'. The next day it was back to bias tape hell. Frieren has what appears to be 2 lines of trim along her dress and cloak. Now, more clever and talented cosplayers than I were smart and just did some nice decorative embellishments to avoid this pain in the ass, but I am a very bad cosplayer, so I had just attached 4 strips of bias tape together. Yay. The uplips were a little trickier because I had to use interfacing to give it a nice stiffness, but I also had to use said bias tape to make a nice piping for them. I put a little hole in the wrong side of them so I could turn them inside out cleanly. Next came 3D printing hell. My friend Adam, who was responsible for 3D printing this Otakawa head that my husband is trying on, got me a 3D printer after I lost my job. I had not opened it up. Basically, I suck at any onboarding process. I am a potato and I must be slowly cultivated before giving you any results, but I decided Frieren was a good time as any to use my 3D printer, so I bravely made some little circles for her gem. The actual gems were resin casted, which is one of my favorite ways to make gems if you have 24 hours to let everything set. After the circles were spray painted, I then used some Warblood to act as a base to attach the gems to the costume. For the boots, we went the tried and true cosplay way of using saran wrap and duct tape to get a good pattern. The biggest problem was the fabric. The one I used was not stretchy in the slightest, but I wanted the boots to fit nicely, so invisible zippers in the back were added. The straps on the boots were just fabric covered in EVA foam for sturdiness. The basics of my costume are now done, but it was also the end of March and I had promised my therapist I'd book a mammogram. I don't have a history of breast cancer in my family, but going back to what I said, I want to live now. So that means taking care of my health and getting my boobs squished.
You are crushed with great pressure.
I was more nervous about the mammogram than the colonoscopy because, at least with the colonoscopy, I got a lot of drugs. But the technology has improved a lot and my tech was super, super kind. And the only uncomfortable part is how they kind of like make you like hold your arm in like a weird pose and you have to hold your breath while the tech takes a photo of your boob. So once again, please get a mammogram. Don't let your boomer mom or your grandma or Reddit like scare you with horror stories. They're quick, they should not be painful, and they can save your life. Now that my overall costume was done and my boobs and butt were healthy, it was time to move on to other things I'm terrible at, wigs and props. 3D printing still scares me, so I went the EVA foam route for Frieren's staff. I also resin casted this big gem in her staff, which looked cool, but also made the staff a little more heavy than it needed to be. I also went with some skewers to give the staff a little more structure and then used Warblood as an attachment as I wanted her staff to be more easily taken apart for transport purposes. It kind of works. So a few months later I actually did get a lot more confident with 3D printing. I used Tinkercad and was actually able to 3D print some dolls that actually work really, really nice in terms of kind of inserting that. You can see that it's a lot more sturdier. I did this when I brought Frieren to Techo, and it worked incredible. Staff was primed and painted with ribbon hot glued on. Now for the wig. Wigs for cosplays have hyper-evolved in the past 2 decades. We went from Party City wigs, some of the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. Wig styling still daunts me, but my best advice to anyone who wants to try wig styling is this. Wigs are not hair. Don't try it like hair. Just do whatever you want. My first endeavor was to use PVC pipes for the pigtails, but they looked a little too much like cat ears, so I had a small wig crisis. I decided with the wig, which, you know, it was alright, but I was like, I don't know, I was like, can I do it cleaner? Can I do it cleaner? So, yeah, I cut everything off, threw on batting, and, the West should be coming in the next week or so, and we'll just, go from there, but I don't know, I understand Instagram is curated, but you always see, like, you know, like cute little time lapses and all the wigs are perfect, and I just always feel like Lisa from Florida. So I always feel like Lisa, like, as Florida in The Simpsons whenever I cosplay. I think to be a cosplayer, I need to be a perfectionist, which I'm not. I think that's why I got fired from the zoo, honestly. I mostly do it because it's fun. I like the challenges and stuff. I don't know. And every time I make something the first time, it doesn't come out that good. There's a shame to that. I see these cosplayers, they're like, oh, I've been from Germany. I've been only cosplaying for 6 months. Oh, I'm learning a lot. And they're like just banging out the most like beautiful shit you've ever seen. Known this for like 20 years. I'm just like, time to staple my dress to the cape. But yeah, so we'll see how this goes. As I said, I cut off the rest of the hair from the wig, installed batting, and glued on the wefts. I also ripped off the PVC for the pigtails and made new bases with Worbla and just hot glued them on. The first time I cost tested Frieren, I felt underwhelmed despite the months of work I'd put into the costume. Cosplay can be hard. A lot of cosplayers are perfectionists with undiagnosed personality disorders, and I am an unperfectionist who is in DBT therapy. I feel like a lot of the time I don't fit in. I don't have the focus to make every costume perfect. I don't have these manic episodes to intensely push my social media presence. I just kind of vibe, and then I just kind of get sad because I'm like, well, I've just been vibing for 20 years with no tangible award or outcome for this. But I told myself I'd done this costume for fun between making costumes for competing, and I was going to be surrounded by 50 other Frierens who just bought their costumes from Doki Doki, so why not wear it anyway? Well, the day of MomoCon, I put it on and I was happy with it. Maybe it was the colored lenses, or the 4 pounds of makeup, or awkwardly running into Sarah Spaceman in her amazing Frieren costume, but something just clicked, and I was really happy with the work I put into Frieren.
I'm very caught up, I think, in my work, you know. Oh, you know, will this hold up under scrutiny? This can't place. But it's been good. I think Frieren means a lot to me as a show. It means a lot as I've gotten older. I think to watch a show about, you know, living a full life and legacy you pass on. So it's been good. It's been good.
What surprised me as well was how much my husband liked the costume, to the point where when we got back from the con, he practically begged me to take some photos of him around our neighborhood. I feel the reason Frieren's resonated with so many people is it's a story of legacy and finding purpose in the work that you do and hoping to pass it on somehow. Cosplay is something I love dearly, but I also worry a lot of the time it's not going to have left any meaningful impact after I'm no longer doing it. Obviously, no one should be cosplaying with the goal to become famous or make a career out of it, but given the work one puts into something, it's not bad or selfish to try to seek tangible results from that. There's a reason my last video came out over a year ago, and that's because I got discouraged with putting months of work into a video only to see 30 views on it. Cosplay on some level feels a little bit more real. Yes, I might only get 30 likes on Instagram, but if 30 people come up to me at a con and they say they like my cosplay, I'm over the moon. There was a part of me that thought, well, maybe I can document the work I put into my costume. So here we are with this video. And I hope y'all got something out of it.
So while you're recording me, I'll get it on the freaking record.
Yeah, okay.
Your cosplay has improved so much.
Aww.
And I said this to you off camera, I'll say it to you on camera. And I hope you cried during the shot. Because you really have improved. This is like seriously some of the best work you've done.
Aww, now I'm gonna cry. My makeup's gonna run.
Good, we don't have any more things to shoot.
Hi friends, I hope you enjoyed this video. I've thought about dipping my toes into the cosplay YouTube video world for a while, so let me know if you enjoyed this video and if I should keep making more of these. I've discontinued my Patreon until I know I can put together regular content again, so if you want to support this channel, the best way to do so is share, subscribe, comment, though I have also left my Ko-fi link in the description as well if you'd like to help me out financially there. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I'd like to make more of them. That's all for now. I hope you're all doing well. Take care, my dudes.
I realize I've been mentioning my husband a lot in this video. He never makes it. I said I never mentioned you. I keep being like, oh, my husband. He was so nice.
Who is that? I'll beat him up.